sad when a mother has to speak the words that condemn her own son? But I couldn't allow them to believe that I would commit murder. They'll put him away now, as I should have, years ago. He was always bad, and in the end he intended to tell them I killed those girls and that man, as if I could do anything except just sit and stare, like one of his stuffed birds. Oh, they know I can't even move a finger, and I won't. I'll just sit here and be quiet, just in case they do suspect me. I'm not even gonna swat that fly. I hope they are watching. They'll see. They'll see, and they'll know, and they'll say, why, she wouldn't even harm a fly.
In 1959, Robert Bloch published the first edition of his best-selling novel, Psycho. Loosely based on the atrocities committed by serial murderer Ed Gein, Psycho tells the story of Norman Bates, a motel manager who, under the self-imposed influence of his long-dead mother, is responsible for a series of gruesome murders. A year later, in 1960, fresh off the success of his hit film Vertigo, Alfred Hitchcock would make a Hollywood film adaptation of the same name that would go on to be his most worldly renowned film. The film stars then-popular actress Janet Leigh as Marion Crane, one of the film's main protagonists and the unwitting/unwilling instigator of the film's main plot, and Anthony Perkins as the film's titular psycho, Norman Bates. A far cry from his appearance in the novel, which was that of an overweight, balding, and noticeably unhinged middle-aged man, the film's portrayal was almost in every way, shape, and form the exact opposite of this. This change was made by Hitchcock himself, to give Norman a more charming, boy-next-door kind of vibe. The direction works for the film better overall, as it transforms the character from a simple, horrific murderer into a sympathetic and tragically troubled young man that the audience can't help but feel sorry for. Excellent camera work and suspense, masterful storytelling and directing, and a truly unique and gripping lead performance by the late Anthony Perkins.
I meant well.
People always mean well. They cluck their thick tongues and shake their heads and suggest oh so very delicately.
I could go for hours and hours about how these elements and so much more help make Psycho a landmark horror film and one of the most important and influential movies of all time. Wait, what the hell is that?
Oh, we have 12 in fact. 12 cabins, 12 vacancies.
Oh god. Right, the other one. Alright, so you remember all that good stuff I was saying about the movie a second ago? How much Anthony Perkins' boyish charm can beautifully transform into something lurking and conniving in the blink of an eye?
You know, I think I must have one of those faces you just can't help believing.
Would you?
But I'm not a fool.
Well,
And I'm not capable of being fooled, not even by a woman.
Well, this is not a slur on your manhood. I'm
Let's
sorry.
put it this way. She might have fooled me, but she didn't fool my mother.
Gus Van Sant sure did. So much so that he decided that he would take it upon himself to do literally all of that over again, except worse.
You know, I must have one of those faces you just can't help believing.
Okay, let me just back up here a little bit. Gus Van Sant is not a bad director by any stretch of the imagination. Crying out loud, he made Good Will Hunting. You know, that's gotta count for something, right? Just, the problem with the Psycho remake, though, is, well, almost everything, really. Its mere existence just defies logic. It redoes every single scene from the original, line for line, beat for beat, shot for shot. The point of a remake should be to either expand upon the ideas that the original presented, or to do something better that the original just failed to achieve. This movie does none of those things. Anything that it does add or change from the original just makes you scratch your head. Why are there seemingly random flashes of strange clips whenever Norman's mother is killing someone? Why were the iconic Bates Motel sign and house changed to look significantly more bland? What's the point in slashing Arbogast's face here more than once? If anything, it just ruins the pacing of the scene. Was this necessary? fact, you know what? Do you know what the perfect encapsulation of everything that's wrong with this movie is? It's in this scene right here.
He was simply doing everything possible to keep alive the illusion of his mother being alive. And when reality came too close, when danger or desire threatened that illusion, he'd dress up.
This scene is commonly regarded amongst fans of this movie as being the weakest part of the entire film. To a modern audience, this scene is absolutely not necessary. Sure, maybe back in 1960, when nobody really understood the concepts that this movie was presenting, Alfred Hitchcock probably felt that he might have needed a 5-minute talk down to kind of lay things out for the audience. However, that was 60 years ago. Hell, around the time this movie came out, that was already almost 40 years ago. So, keeping this scene in the movie is even more pointless now than it ever was before.
To understand it as I understood it, hearing it from the mother, that was the mother half of Norman's mind, you have to go back 10 years, the time when Norman murdered his mother and her lover.
The worst thing you could possibly do to an audience is have them feel like they are wasting their time. This scene right here, remaking this scene in your already pointless remake of a timeless masterpiece that didn't need to be remade in the first place, is everything that's wrong with this movie. Removing this scene entirely would have just been the best option. Nothing is added to make it any better than the original, aside from, I think, shortening it. But even that, the scene itself is not even good on its own. The cinematography is more stale than the old version, and the acting is even worse. I implore anyone who watches this movie to see it as an example for anyone who wishes to become a filmmaker. It is the bare definition of soulless. Remaking a timeless classic is one thing, but making your film a damn near carbon copy of another movie is just on another level. Every good part of this film just ends up being distracting and awkward anyway, because you've literally watched it before. The only artistic merit I can take from it is to watch it as a means of knowing how to not pay tribute to a classic. Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho was already an adaptation of previous source material, but even he knew to make changes where they counted, and it ended up being one of the greatest movies ever made.
Mrs. Bates.